Hello, 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 and welcome to another installment of Teach, Reflect, Recharge, Repeat, brought to you by PD Reimagined. Basically, it's a free program to support, inspire, and show appreciation for all the amazing educators who are guiding our future thinkers. And if you want to learn more, you can check out pdreimagined.com. I am Nadine Levit, your host, and this is Summit 4 of the 23-24 season. Today, I'm super excited to be talking with Andra Liemandt, who I'll be sharing with you guys all. She's the founder of the Kindness Campaign, who is literally a rock star, like literally. She was also the drummer in the Austin-born band, The Misses. And you may have seen her in a viral video about a magic mirror, which then spread the message of I am enough, which resulted in appearances on Good Morning America. And I believe there was a backstage installment at a Lady Gaga concert or tour or something. So we'll talk about that. She was also the co-author of a journal, I Am Enough, that was published by Erin Condren. And she was named among 30 nonprofit founders that will impact the world. And she won Austin's Women's Way Business Award for Social Impact. The list goes on and on. I met her 3 years ago. I can't believe it's been 3 years in August of 21. But I've instantly drawn to her obvious passion for education and also emotional health. And I was also really impressed with how well she balanced, or seems to balance anyway, her career with family time with her husband and teenage kids. So, Andra, I asked you if you could come and speak to everybody because I think you have so many amazing things to say and lessons that we can all learn, particularly with emotions and with kindness. Welcome.
Thank you. Wow. Well, thank you so much. And I had to giggle a little bit on the heels of our earlier conversation about balancing it all. For any of you who have teenage age kids, I've been balancing my kids today with wisdom teeth situation where they had them taken out. So it's been quite the juggle. I'd like to say I'm surviving it and happy to be with you all. And I have to say, I am so honored to be sharing this day with you and getting to really honor all of you and the work you do. It is such a pleasure. My mom is a retired educator, and I've had the privilege of being a part of this community via her for many years, and it's just hard work. So thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, I feel like you're very embedded actually in all things education. Your husband, there's so many people, your assistant's husband as well. There's like everywhere around you. It seems to be like everyone is just very sort of embedded in education and social impact. So
yeah,
there's a
really
lot about
grown
you.
up in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I rattled off a little bit about your bio, but I'm so curious because, you know, you definitely didn't take a straight shot with your career.
And you... Does anyone?
Yeah, that's true. I've also led many lives. Yeah. But people are always curious about it with me too. But so I'm curious to know how you got there. For example, like what was your childhood like? What was like as a kid? Did you ever think, were you interested in any of the things that you're doing now?
Well, I think it's all kind of related. I was very active. I actually wanted to be a ballerina. And as we know today, the ballerinas today have a little bit different, I think there's more opportunity. My body type really wasn't the ballerina body type. And so I think my career got ended, cut off a little bit shorter. I was very active in basketball, in dance and drill. And so I think some of the things and the choices I was making have led me to where I am today. But I don't think I ever set out to do all the things I was doing in my adult life, but they did kind of my passions and the things I was interested in. I was a student council president, and everything I did was involved. Was very ingrained in philanthropy, even early on. From blood drives to, helping my community, canned goods, all the things. So I've always had a heart for it.
Is that something that your parents and sort of, and influence that they had on you in terms of getting you to be involved in philanthropy and getting involved in giving back? Or is that something that came just from the community around you, or where did that come from?
I don't know if they said you need to do this. I think there's some organizations out here like mom, daughter, or son, family organizations that really try to instill that volunteerism. I grew up in a very tiny town, Victoria, Texas, for anyone who is
You're a
familiar.
Texas girl. I love that.
Yes, through and through. And there wasn't a lot of that in available. It was just kind of you plugged along, and there was needs everywhere.
Mhm.
There was ways to plug in and things that were available that we needed to help. People were always saying that had a need. And so I think early on I saw my father doing that, and I think by example I saw that what they were doing in the community, and how he was always willing, whether or not he had the financial means. It was more of a, oh yeah, I'm happy to help my neighbor, I'm happy to help. And my mom
Mhm.
was always willing. And whether it was her, she's a seamstress, or she sewed, and she was always willing to sew for the entire drill team, or lend a hand and be the one to say, I'll volunteer. And I think by those examples were the examples that I just said, oh, it's a natural thing to do.
Mhm.
And I think that when you lead by example, or when you can see it, you can be it.
Yeah, it's a much more organic way to have
Yeah.
that influence. Yeah. So you started as you wanted to be a ballerina, and that didn't quite work out. So how did you go from that uh, to being a drummer in a band? I guess was the next big
Oh,
thing.
oh boy. Okay, so we're gonna go there. Well, the being a drummer in a band was never. I think if we sometimes we pick up hobbies that end up being more of a part of our life than we intend. And I would say that that is definitely what drumming ended up being in my life. It it was really something I was pursuing to bring music into my daughter's life. My daughter was very young at the time, and looking for her music in Austin, which is known as the live music capital of the world. I thought, why not? And so I looked for music for her. And when I did that, I fell into a mom group that said, "Oh yeah, well they are doing that, we do our thing." And so I thought, well, and they needed a drummer in their little band, and I thought, well, I'll learn music. Why not? And because I love dance, and because I am drawn to rhythms and music, I thought, well, sure, that's just like dancing. I'll help you out. So I joined and became a part of their group for fun. What ended up happening for me was I don't know about you, but being a mom was a as we've taken on roles in our lives, whether you're a mom or you are taking on a new career path, when you step into a new role, sometimes it's very lonely. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt very alone being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I had always been a career person. I worked at Dell Computers. I was in pharmaceutical sales. I had always been out there, and being a mom, I felt very alone. And I had friends, and I had a lot of people who were doing it, but I was scared, and I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and every day was a challenge. And so when I became a part of a band, I found this new rhythm of connection with women that I hadn't had in a while, and I felt very alive. And so I sought that out with a group of women to participate with me in learning cover songs. And that snowballed into a whole nother thing of connection. And what ended up, if you flash forward 10 years forward, um, as any uh, entrepreneur person does, I'm like, well, why not start a label? Why not go out and pursue songs and learn to write them? And, so I just became engrossed in doing the band. And so I started a label, created our own songs. I met Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's, who encouraged me, taught me to write
Okay.
our very first song. And from there was how all of that began. And I went out on tour and, became, you know, uh, in a band. And I, grown woman with children and, nursing one and going out and drumming. And, we would write songs that we felt were love songs to our children. And that would be songs we'd be proud to be on the radio and sing for other women that maybe were messages that they wanted, that were connected to them. And one of our very first singles was called I'm Enough. And it was mainly because we often felt we weren't.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that's a common, I certainly as a mom, I can say there's so many times when you feel like there's a mom fail. Oh God, I couldn't do this. And you're stretched too thin, and I work too. So I totally can relate to feeling like there are balls dropping that shouldn't be dropping. And I don't like balls dropping, and remembering that we're all just doing our best. And that I am enough I think it's a really important message. It did, of course. So this band was called The Misses, and it did lead, that particular song, right, led to the viral music video for The Magic Mirror.
Yes. And, the Magic Mirror and The Misses. So these two things kind of came together as something that so special, because this song was a song that number one was what I consider an anthem to my life, and something that I had no idea if any other woman in the world felt, but I knew our little core group felt that, we all were walking around sometimes feeling like maybe I wasn't a good enough mother, a good enough friend,
or a good enough
partner, all of those things. So what we wanted to do was we created what we call a magic mirror. And we brought people, some of our loved ones, some of our best friends, heroes of our community, teachers. One of my best friends was a teacher at the time. She was a teacher, and we wanted to bring them in front of what we called a magic mirror and ask them one question: how do you feel when you look in the mirror? And have them rate themselves. So it was like an iPad, and all the way to I'm enough. And we put this in a mall, so a place, and surprised them. So we could bring them in front of this magic mirror, ask them this question. And then we had pre-recorded videos of their family members to tell them how they felt about them, so that they could see themselves through the eyes of those people that loved them and cared most about them. And we set this up, and we decided we were going to surprise about 8 people. And this was our music video. And we were going to put a little song behind it, and we were going to surprise people and see what happened. Well, what ended up happening was that day was so special. We had people, these women would come, and they wouldn't rate themselves very high. And then they would see themselves through the eyes of people who love them, and tears would flow, and their loved ones, we had them there to surprise them and hug them and love on them. And then by the end of the video, as you can imagine, it was just a day filled of complete and utter love. So we released this video, we package it up, and this is our music video. And it went out into the world. And when it released, it got millions of views within the first couple weeks.
I'm not surprised. We will continue to, we'll be sharing this in the description and also in the email out that we send to everybody. But everybody has to Google this particular video. So just write Magic Mirror and The Misses, and it will be the first video you see. It is the most emotional. I don't know a single person that I've shared it with that didn't sort of have tears in their eyes. It is, we all can relate to this, whether you're a man or a woman or anything in between, or if you have, if you are a teacher, or if you're a doctor, there are moments where we beat ourselves up so incredibly, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed, or that feeling of, I guess, a lack of connection or just loneliness. And it just starts to make people believe that they matter, that they are not alone, and that this is a very natural, that lots of people feel this way, but that it's this moment too shall pass. And then when you see how other people see you, I think it's just an incredibly powerful tool. So I'm not surprised it went viral.
Yeah, it was one of those where we had no idea what we were creating, and we had no idea the response we would get. I remember the first time I got a call from Good Morning America. I was in Whole Foods and they wanted us to come on the show, and I just broke down in tears because I thought, "Oh my gosh, like people are connecting, and people are wanting to know that they're not, like, everybody is feeling this way. We're not alone." And so the beauty of that was that uh, we ended up touring around with this major magic mirror. We've since been able to make it a little bit more transportable.
Yeah.
But we toured from the top of the Rock in New York to the Mall of America to with Lady Gaga when she came to
Mm-hmm.
Austin, the Irwin Center. And it has just been able to see and help so many different kinds of people all over, and really touch so many lives, women who are healing from, cancer survivors to children and organizations with eating disorders. We've done it all. We've really been able to work with and see a lot of people.
In seeing so many people, do you think there's a uniform or there's any pattern to why people feel that they're not enough to start with?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think we fall. I want to say victim, but pretty much we fall into patterns.
Mhm.
One of the biggest patterns is just our negative self-talk. And that is why it's so important to be proactive in a lot of the work that you can do daily, and set up routines that really help you. Also set up routines that are, uh, you know, safeguarding you from anything that you're looking at, that really pours in positivity. We're going to see negativity. We're going to have things that
Mhm.
happen to us daily, missteps, things that happen where you do feel like you're not enough or you're failing, and we're going to have failures, but
Yeah,
it's
we
how
all
we
spill the milk.
respond to them. Yeah, we do. And that's okay. And we're going to be down. It's how we rise and how we come together around that, and knowing that you have the right tool for you. It's going to be different for each person, but knowing what your tool is in your toolbox to help you. And a lot of that begins with, what is that magic tool or conversation that you're going to have to pick yourself up? I can get spinning out really quickly about some of my negative thoughts, and then I have a little saying. I am like, okay, Andra, let's stop that, because if I let it go, I
Mhm.
can go really dark, and that's not good, and I know that. But it's
Yeah.
okay, because I also know that that's normal, and it's fine to go dark a little.
Yeah, I've recently started playing golf, and those dark conversations, beating myself up, come up very quickly when you're so used to doing things, being good at certain things, and suddenly you suck at certain things, and the thing about golf is, which is really interesting, is that your best shot becomes your new normal regular shot in your head,
Yeah.
right? So if I drive the ball 200 yards, then I'm going to think that that's what I do every time. And so when I only then drive the ball 160 yards and it goes right, I think, God, and there might be a few cuss words in there because it's the only time that I ever do that. But it's because I'm under this romanticized illusion that or expectation, I should say, which is not, it's not a real expectation, and I really shouldn't have it. And recently I let go of that in my game, and I just said, you know what, this is a game. This is a game. I'm never going to be a professional golfer. This is supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be a stress relief for me when I'm taking time out. And since I've done that, night and day difference, even in the performance, because I don't focus on the crappy shots.
Yeah.
I celebrate the good shots.
And what I think you bring up a really interesting point about the bar we set. I think really calibrating yourself to understand there are times where you do set bars, and it's good to do. I mean, challenging yourself is really important, to know that you have challenges, and when you can overcome them, or when you've set a bar that really makes you feel good that you met that challenge, and you put that under your belt, and you're like, yeah, what am I doing next? You know, maybe you run a marathon. I don't know. The Austin Marathon just happened recently, and I had a lot of friends that did that. So, doing those things where you set something up to make yourself, give yourself a good goal. So bars are important, but knowing why you're setting it and what it's there for. And if it's really just to create that I did this, so now I have to do that, and this bar just keeps rising, maybe reevaluating like you just did, to say, I don't know if that's a real, if that structure works for me. And so when you let go of it in that evaluation, and you know that, oh, okay, I was playing a game with myself. So it actually, I'm going to be able to do better now, because I know better about my bars. Yeah. And the boundaries. So I think that that's important.
I think there's also a very interesting role that emotions plays in all of this too, because I mean, you and I geeked out on emotion speak when we first met 3 years ago. For those that don't know, I'm very, very interested in emotions, and I've written books about it and curriculums about it as well. And I really think that one of the problems with emotions is that we don't teach it we never feel one emotion alone, and yet we teach it as one emotion alone. So it becomes a caricature of like, I'm happy, ding, I'm sad, but we don't feel it like that ever. But what's interesting about what you were saying about the bar, right, is that there are emotions also that attach to that. So for example, fear of failure can be a wonderful motivator, right? And if I have a surgeon who's opening me up and operating on me, I really do hope that they have a little bit of fear in them that keeps them honest, and that they have a high bar. There's other emotions there too that can really keep us aware. And then some of those can be used in a healthy way, like to keep us aware and alert and so on and so forth. And sometimes it can be a very limiting factor. And I think those emotions like fear, it can stop people from doing stuff, or can limit you or lead to that negative self-talk. And so I do think people should think also about the emotions behind those bars. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, first of all, I think there's this little conversation that I've been starting with my team recently. And for those of you, I'm very much working full time at the Kindness Campaign now, as CEO and founder, and full time, creator there. And so I spend the majority of my time really thinking about emotions and how we respond, how we create with them, how we open them up, how we get young people to really understand them. And so this is very interesting to me. And one of the things that we've been really playing with is how we talk about them, especially to new parents, about when we're young, we learn a language, we learn to speak whatever your whatever language you are speaking in. But something that isn't really taught early on is the language of emotions. We understand that at an early age that children have emotions, and we know that parents are saying, my child feels this, but a child is not really met with how to express or how to unpack as a real language. It is a language. It's a full-on language that should be taught. And so this is something that we're toying with on really how to unpack it and how to give tools right now to address this need as a real need across the board, starting 3 years old, maybe even younger, on how to give this language so that children grow up with it being a very natural first language, so to speak.
Two things there which are really interesting. One, I think adults also struggle with the language piece of this. And I think Brene Brown did some fascinating work on this, where she talked about, had people identify how they were feeling. And on average, I think they had some ridiculously low amount, with like 5 emotions that they could identify that they felt, which is pretty poor considering how many emotions we feel in a given moment. And then the second thing that I thought was really interesting was giving kids this language that is not about negative and positive, because I think that was the traditional way of talking about emotions, right? It's good to feel happy, it's bad to feel angry. Well, no, it's not bad to feel angry. Like, we need anger. It's a wonderful motivator in life. Nothing in history would have happened without it. But we need to be able to unpack it and do it in a way that's healthy, and find out, like, how can we use it in a healthy way? Like, it's okay to feel it, not okay to punch somebody.
Right. And how do you open up that dialogue? And one of the ways that we're doing that is by, giving tools earlier and showing that this language through, we have a character, a nephew buddy, that really kind of helps explore using those emotions, but also
It reminds me of Knuffle Bunny for some reason. I don't know why.
I love it. I mean, we call him all kinds of things, but he's adopted, he's blue, he's round, and he has these antennas. And that's how it's a superpower. And that's how he explores his emotions. And we help children kind of go through that exploration as well, but through shapes and colors. And oftentimes I don't even know how to describe what I'm feeling, but I can kind of tell you the color or what it's doing in my body. And by getting children to kind of go through the shape or the color, it's a start. And that's where we have this toolbox where they can actually go through either coloring it or exploring a shape, and they can use their antennas. And we really get them to start a language where we don't have to identify that it's sad, or that maybe it's, terror, boredom, any of these things, that they're all okay. All of the emotions are okay. It's just getting them to really verbalize it through the other explorative tools. And I think that's important.
There's been a lot of science, right, behind the power of labeling the emotions. So just having people be able to say, I feel this way, it actually helped to alleviate some of the burden of a particular, or the heaviness of certain emotions. One of the things that in our workshops, actually, I found really interesting was everybody needed prompts.
Oh,
everybody, can you hear me?
Okay, now I can.
So almost everybody needed prompts. And the reason that they needed prompts was because in the moment, you can't always tell what exactly you're feeling. And so if you get to go through a list, and what I love about your color thing and your shapes and stuff is it can be a prompt for those conversation, right? So, okay, tell me why you made it so angular. Right? Tell me about, what does that mean for you? Or tell me about the colors. What are the colors? What kind of things does that bring up in you? So it's really fascinating. I think as adults, we could also do that with the power of doodling, so to speak,
Yeah. And you age it up, right? So like when you're little, it's more shapes and it's more of these coloring. And as you get older, I look at it from a strengthening perspective. I fall back on the physical components of dance and all of these things, but really we look at, I'm all about prevention, and I'm all about giving you a tool. And so when we look at kind of these emotions, think sadness, joy, happiness, or anger, trust, fear, when you think about them, and there's a lot of emotions that stem from those, but just think about those in general. And you think of them as a muscle, like a bicep. You want to strengthen those muscles so that when those emotions come to you full force, you want to be able to be ready to understand what's happening in your body. So as you get older, you really want to look at learning about those emotions taking time to understand what it is and then strengthening them. And some work that we've been doing is what we call kind gym. And it's like a physical gym, getting your trainer and
it's an app,
working,
right?
It's an app and working every single day. And by doing that, small amounts of work, just like if you're going out walking every day, that adds up. Obviously, walking is great for your mental health, by the way. Encourage everyone to do that. But all of those things, when you strengthen your emotional muscles, not only are you learning about and keeping it in the front of your mind so that you know what tool you're reaching for when you're in the throes of some kind of moment of fear or sadness, you're strengthening. I talk to my sports guys and women when they're on and off the court and you've got something really that's upsetting you and you're in anger mode, on and off the court how to handle those moments, because you know what tool works for you. And so those are just some things that are, I think as we get, whether you're, whatever stage of life you're in, whether you're out and working in your career or you're maybe mid-age or I've got my teens, wherever you are in that timeline, there are things you can do daily that really don't take that long to help you.
Can you walk us through some of those? Like, what are some examples of tools or of things that we can do?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite is doing a little bit of breath work. And so for me personally, my nervous system gets shot. Today, I've been a little bit everywhere. So I've done a little bit more breath work than normal, but breath work for me starts in the morning. And then I use it midday. I'll use it pretty much maybe even before I go to bed sometimes, because I just need to kind of get the day cleansed a little bit. So breath work is really important for me. I like to tie it with positive words as well. So, breath work in general is really great to reset your nervous system, but also if you can bring in some kind of positivity. And something for me that I do, and I don't know if anybody wants to do this. I know we have some incredible people who've joined us today, but if you would like to do it with me, this is something I do that I think is very simple and important. As we talked about earlier with the negative conversation we sometimes have, especially if I have a speaking engagement or have some important meeting coming up and maybe I'm a little bit fearful or nervous, I will do something where I breathe in and I tell myself I am loved. And then I breathe out. I give love.
Oh, I love that.
And it's very simple. And you can do that a couple times in. I'm loved. And exhale. And it just really sets a tone of like, you can feel your shoulders relax. Sometimes I'll even add some calm music. I have my, headphones and really silence out the world. And I'll put them on and I just breathe it in and breathe it out. And if you don't hear I'm loved from anyone else, but you are telling yourself you're loved, that's enough. And that's powerful because you'll start to reprogram your brain. And if you do that every morning, and you start to reprogram your brain to hear I'm loved, and then you're giving love, that will start to change just how you interact with the world, how you interact with yourself. You can lay in your bed before you roll out, you hit the alarm, you can just take a couple deep breaths in and say it. You can look in the mirror. You can do that anywhere you want. And it changes the pace.
Wow, it's really powerful, really powerful. What's really obvious about it as well to me is the kindness that comes with it, right?
Yes.
The self-kindness, the kindness to yourself. So it's no surprise that you created the kindness campaign. right? Have you always had this kind of compassion for yourself, or this kind of empathy for yourself and love for yourself? And I say this in a sort of a self-care way.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think it's a struggle. I think just as anyone else, I think since for those that are new, starting the kindness campaign, it was kind of, I think it's now 8 years in existence in my life. Uh, I the kindness campaign today, I very much look at it from a business standpoint and, how to impact the world in a way that creates this real sustainable change. But back when, I think, 8 years ago, I looked at it very differently. And for those of you, I just want to be very, give a heads up here. I'm for a brief second talk about suicide. So, but this came into my life because a very sweet friend of mine, her daughter took her life. She was a child that was around 12 years old,
Oh my God.
and this was due to bullying. And my daughters were very young at the time; they're older now. But I was really trying to come to terms with how to understand how this could happen, and also trying to have a conversation with my own daughters about how to prevent it. I mean, uh, I didn't, this was just very shocking to me, obviously. And this led to the creation of my character, Enoughy Buddy. I sat down at the table with my daughters, trying to find a way to have a conversation with them over something that was deeply sad. Um, and that also came, that journal you were talking about, prompts and things. I actually have a whole line of journals, and that started our first journal. And we journaled their days. And Enoughy Buddy went through, uh, you know, their days at school, and they were very much a part of this because I wanted to make sure that I could be a part of their life, and that I could figure out ways that we could connect to what was really going on at school. And Enoughy Buddy was our connector. He was
Mm-hmm.
the one who was helping us see a path forward in a time when it was really sad, and it was really hard for all of us involved. And that really, laid the foundation, this I am enough. He's a Nuffy Buddy. And and that was, back then the big eye, or I think they're still popular, the big fuzzy with the big eyes. And we created it together. And it really laid the foundation for the kindness campaign and the values that we have, and all the tools we've created. And really, I've been a lifelong learner of all of this work, right? From in high school to now. And I think it's all been teed up to be sitting in this chair and doing this work. But it wasn't until that moment, till I got so ingrained in doing that work, that I realized how poorly I was living my life and talking to myself and treating myself. And now I'm an active pursuer of uh, really trying to care for myself, taking time for myself, for my team. Jana, who you met earlier, I try to care for them better. I try to understand the world around me in a way
Mm-hmm.
that helps really support the mental and emotional health of people around me, because I think we said earlier, when you know better, you do better. And
Yeah.
that was a very long answer to say, no, I haven't always done that, but I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't really realize. And I would say I'm from a small town, and I just didn't see that. I just didn't know. I
Mm-hmm.
know.
I wonder if, I mean, I'm a Generation Xer, but the generations below seem to be much more in touch with therapy and things like that than certainly my generation. It was much, it was not as accepted. It was not even kindness, by the way, the concept of kindness was when I was in school would have definitely not been something that people talk about, or it was like an immeasurable, airy fairy kind of a concept. Whereas now there's a ton of science behind it. I mean, your story is so, it hits me to the core because my son is 12. So the idea, that my son, who's just this little baby, somebody like his age could be capable of that is heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And I think the thing, whether you're a child, I mean, with a child, obviously you have slightly, you don't have quite the same tools as an adult, but even adults, we don't, like, connection is such a big piece of mattering.
Yeah.
And this feeling of being that you matter, which is what I Am Enough is all about, right? It's about mattering. And all the science in the world says that helps keep people engaged in life because they want to be here for tomorrow. They don't necessarily know if they want to be here for the next 10 years or 50 years or 100 years. Well, for them, 100 years. But they know they want to be here for tomorrow. And so if kids or if teachers or if people can just have that kindness in their life, whether it comes from somebody that they know well, relationships, or somebody they don't know well, or, as you say, yourself, right? I think that's a really powerful tool to be able to say, I am enough and I look forward to tomorrow. I want tomorrow. So I just think it's a really, really powerful seed to your nonprofit and where you've come. And no wonder you've created the impact you have, because it's been started with need and heart. So I'm profoundly in awe of people like you. So you have the work you do. It's just fantastic. And I think our teachers who are here tonight, we've talked a little bit in past episodes, we've talked about the micro moments. I think the magic lies in the micro moments where you might not even be aware of what you do, and you smile or you reach out to somebody, but it's that concept of connection in those micro moments, and choosing kindness, right, would be a very powerful way to leave this world if we just, in those micro moments, become more aware of being kind.
You're making me think of something right now, so I hope you don't mind me, but because we have our teachers here and because they impact the world and the way we know it with our future leaders, I really, there's something else that is a small moment they can do with each other or with a friend or with their students, having their students do it to each other. But I can imagine walking in a classroom or walking down the hall, and it takes 2 seconds. I do a longer version. I do 30 seconds when I do speak at schools and places. But if you just walk up to someone and look in their eyes and tell them, if I was to do this with you,
Okay.
be their mirror for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do the return for me. But if I just walked up to you and said, you matter, and the way that you shine today, the way you made me feel by listening to me and looking at me and telling me that my work matters to the world, really makes me feel good. It makes me feel like the work that I put in every day is worth it. Thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for showing up in the way that you do for your family and for everyone around you. If you take time for one of those moments for one person every day, that person you may not even know that person needed it. But you can do that with your students. They can look at each other and say one kind thing to each other. You can partner them up to be each other's mirror.
That's the connection. That's the connection point,
yes,
right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's a way to reflect. It's a way they may giggle a little.
Yeah. And that's okay too.
But even for each other, go up to someone that you know, or just do it with, and just
We do have school leaders here too. So, for anyone that's a school leader or can organize staff as well, I think connection is such a big part of strengthening community, right? And that's also really important in the staff community. So being able to have this really short little exercise in a meeting or whatever, taking the time for this would be invaluable, I would think.
Just invaluable. I've seen it done in rooms of hundreds of people and just tears flow. It's a little harder over Zoom.
Well, I will tell you that my heart was at first, it's like, oh God, where are we going with this? And then I'll be honest, it was like the apprehension of like, oh gosh.
Which is funny because they do that with the magic mirror. People go up to it and they're like, oh wait, what's happening? And then they get into it.
Yeah, no. And then it became like you literally felt a warmth. I felt a warmth in my heart of like, I'm being seen. I think that was part of it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's great. And it's hard because people, when you look at each other, that's also hard. And that's the difference with the mirror, because when you come to our magic mirror, you're just seeing yourself. And so you remove the person, but it also works person to person. And it's so fantastic. And that connection piece you were talking about just made me really want to make sure that people make a difference, and you never know who needs to hear from you. And even just that small moment that you connected with someone could have saved their lives. You just don't know.
100%. I think the other really fascinating piece of this is that you created a nonprofit that's about doing something proactive rather than, I think a lot of the focus, obviously, especially in such a dark topic, it's on ending something, ending bullying, fighting, stopping something. But you're more about seeding the things that will make no more room for bullying.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I love how you said that. When we started, because it was so painful, I wanted to just do something. Honestly, I just want to do something fun, something that if I was going to talk about it, I actually had no idea that it was going to be this much in my life. And it was just supposed to be in my daughter's classroom and her school. And then it turned into this, national program. But, and we do have a little pocket in Ukraine we're serving, which is fantastic today.
That's awesome.
But, it's really grown into something I'm beyond proud, but also something way beyond what I ever imagined. And yes, if I wanted it to be a positive thing that people could feel that incredible energy about and know that there's hope, because I think when we see our world, and if I was going to create anything and put anything into the world, I wanted it to be good, and I wanted it to be kind, and I wanted it to be something that was a legacy that was just beautiful and something that I know that people would want to be a part of. And that's what I'm building and continue to build.
So just so that I can be clear, I think there's three things, right? There's the kind gym, then there's kind music, which allows people to write music and engage with emotions basically through the process of writing songs. And then they have an opportunity to have it recorded by real artists in your sort of catalog of artists. I think you once described it as the Uber for artists, which was kind of a cool concept. Yeah. And then you pick
up a gig.
Exactly. And then you have, so you have the kind gym, you have kind music, and then you have the kind campaign, correct? Or is that all part of it?
The magic mirror.
Magic mirror.
Yeah, it's part of that. And the kindness campaign is just the overall.
The overarching. Okay. So where can people learn more? Because I know you have school curriculums, you have like lots of different information and free tools out there as well.
There's so many free tools and in a lot of ways. We send, just so everyone knows, we send for World Kindness Day is in November. You can sign up to be a part of that. And we send you a whole box of goodies free directly to your classrooms, to your school. We do whole schools. We had 100 schools participate this past November. And we had 60,000 students everyone that was served. So yes, we are, and we did serve the Ukraine for that one as well. But you can go to tkckindness.org. And we are more than happy to send you what we can as far as anything free. You can download free notes of kindness, coloring tools. And then, of course, you can participate in any of our curriculum and any of our other tools that we provide.
That's awesome. And, I have to ask, what's next? You're conquering the world one step at a time. What's next for you?
Thank you. Well, I am excited. Personally, I'm taking my oldest daughter to college. And yes, I would, if you can.
Congratulations.
I am so proud and happy for that. I just...
minus some wisdom teeth.
Minus some wisdom teeth, which that was a check the box, had to do that. And then professionally, I am launching my first children's book with a Nephew Buddy. This has been a dream since the very beginning. And we're launching products and supportive tools to go along with that. So that all will happen at the end of this, into this school year. And that will be available, be on our website soon. And so everyone can order, and it's just a big dream. So I'm really honored and proud to be able to send that out into the world.
I'm so excited for you. It's about time. I'm surprised you haven't done one in the past. I guess it's been a lot of sort of eyes open and learning. I
think minus our big moment that the world all took on, I would have done it sooner had we not all had that little thing called the pandemic happen.
I know.
I might have done a couple other things, but we had a little pivoting happening. But minus that, we've been trucking right along, and we've had so many great things happening at the Kindness Campaign, and anticipating so many more. And we are just eager to serve, and just really happy to be in the communities that we're in now.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time, and we will absolutely share all the tools and the link to the magic mirror. And I'm going to let you go, but everybody else stay on, because we're going to digest some of this. But Andra, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Wow. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This was such an amazing and really powerful message that I just think should live in every classroom, should live in every home, that we are enough, and that we have the power to move people and connect with people and make this world a better place. I hope everyone liked this episode. If you did, please help us spread the word by sharing and liking the episodes. Subscribing to the channel, it all helps. Please know that we're also available on all major podcast platforms. I can't even talk, including Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, and iHeart. Please leave comments. And if you want to learn more about our program, check out pdreimagine.com. We will also leave the links to Andra Liemandt's kindness campaign. And also the Magic Mirror video. I urge you to watch it, but have a tissue handy, because I've watched it 12 times and I still get tears in my eyes. The reason behind me wanting to share this message was very much that I think you guys, as educators, are the absolute superheroes of this world. And I very, very genuinely am in awe of everything that you do. So the best teachers in the world are those that connect. And I wanted you to feel like each one of us is enough. So I see you, and I appreciate you, and thank you for what you do. Good night. Over and out.